is shining, chrome is gleaming, Saturday and I'm daydreaming. Got my Griot's bucket, it's the latest scene, 6 gallons deep, gonna get it clean. Divider in the middle, it's a clever trick, soap on the left, drinks on the right. Dirt falls down, my ride so slick, I'm washing in style, feeling out of sight. Oh, my neighbors wave, they wanna know how my car's so bright, how it seems to glow. I wink and smile, then I let them see. It's the bucket, baby, it's the secret key. Double dunk, dip it in, make that funky funk. Double dunk, soap and rinse, hear that groove go, go. Double dunk, shining wheels and a trunk full of funk. Double dunk, with my ultimate wash bucket, I'm never sunk. Measuring cups, I pour with flair, volume lines, I haven't a care. Lower grades catch all the grit, no more scratches, just a perfect fit. Tool caddy loaded, brushes in tow, wheels are spinning, watch me go. Casters rolling, brakes on tight, my car's a disco ball tonight. Oh, the music's loud, the water spray, I'm dancing in the driveway, hey. Neighbors gather, they clap and cheer. The cleanest car in town is here. Double dunk, dip it in, make that funky funk. Double dunk.
Hey everyone, welcome to another YouTube Live. I'm Sam.
And I'm Stevie.
And today we're here to talk to you about all things washing. So we have entered the washing season. Hopefully in your part of the world or country where you're getting some nice weather and getting out there to wash your cars. So today we're going to run you through all the different wash methods, talk about the ins and outs, the trade-offs of each, and how you go about all of them. So we'll throw some tips and tricks into there. Got a pretty demo heavy, excuse me, can't talk. Demo heavy live for you guys today, so we'll try to get to those as soon as possible.
Yep.
Thank you for the shout outs on our lovely YouTube Live poster this week. That was a interesting one, to say the least. But
we tried our hardest to convince him to wear the Daisy Dukes for the show today. He politely declined multiple times.
It's against dress code. I only got away with that for a short period of time for the shoot. But yeah, we had to do Joe Dirt justice. You know, classic movie and one of the greats, especially if you're a 90s kid. You know, I have a soft spot in my heart for Joe Dirt. So had to do that one justice. But to not keep you guys waiting any longer, we do have an awesome giveaway today, and also one of the focal points of our live, our new Ultimate Wash Bucket 2 went live on our website May 9th, so that is available for sale. If you haven't picked one up already, you might wait to see if you win one today or during the No Questions Left Behind later this week.
Yeah, we're giving away 3 buckets today. So make sure you're asking your questions. We're going to try and pick one pretty early on, one about halfway through and one towards the end, so definitely stick around. And if you don't win, remember we always do our No Questions Left Behind on Friday, and we will be picking another winner from one of those questions.
Yep. So the Ultimate Wash Bucket 2, the giveaway version, will be the fully loaded set. So you get all the accessories, the casters with top lock brake, the caddy, and the lid, which isn't here today, but the lid will come with that fully loaded setup. So a couple of unique things about this bucket for those of you that haven't seen it. First and foremost, you know, casters were one of the improvements that we wanted to make because we had lots of issues, not lots, but some issues and customer complaints of our previous bucket where the press fit casters would fall out. These new casters are much more premium quality. They're a threaded stem with a brass nutsert in the base of the bucket, so they actually thread in to the base of the bucket so that they will not fall out on you. They're swivel bearings with a non-bearing axle to prevent corrosion at the axle where you're going to have most of the water exposure. TPE tread so they won't mark up your nice painted floor, and they roll very, very smoothly when the bucket's fully loaded with water to help prevent splashing, tipping.
It really is impressive how smooth they roll. It's like butter. It just glides along.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, especially on a rough, aggregate driveway, those kinds of surfaces. And then one of the other critical features or improvements to this bucket is that it has a lower center of gravity. So it has the same 6-gallon capacity as our previous bucket, but this version is 1 inch shorter and 1 inch wider. So it's lower center of gravity with a wider footprint to prevent it from tipping if your casters get turned inboard on an uneven surface when it's full of water. So that helps a lot. A more stout, robust handle with a larger grip, a lot more comfortable when you're carrying around almost 50 pounds of water. And then you have the optional caddy, of course, which has a washboard feature in it so that you can help agitate your brushes and wash tools to get the grit contaminant out of them. And then you have the dirt tight divider system. So the divider is not intended to be watertight, but it is intended to be dirt tight. So you press that divider down into the center, and it's going to prevent dirt and contaminant from transferring from one side to the other. And then at the top, on the inside of each side, one side is marked clean, the other side is marked dirty, so that when you're using that 2-bucket wash method, you take your mitt out of the clean side to the paint, agitate the paint, take your mitt back to the dirty side, get all the grit and contaminant out of it in the dirty side, wring it out, rinse it, and then pick up fresh, clean suds on the clean side, take them back to your paint surface. So allows that 2-bucket wash method in a single bucket. These are covered by soap and water, but the Griot system features measuring cups with 2-ounce and 4-ounce measurements in them as well, so you can easily dilute any of our soaps.
Yep, and that really quick covers a question that we've already gotten from Nick Michalko asking, soap first or water first when filling your wash bucket? The cups, the measuring cups in the bottom of the bucket make it really easy to measure your soap, so ideally you'd be adding that first. If you have another method of measuring, say you're using measuring cups, you're more than welcome to do water first, add the soap. Just remember that you are still going to need to agitate, so the easiest way is going to be to use that measuring cup and fill it after adding the soap.
Yep. Yeah, it's typically easiest to produce suds too if you're putting the soap in first rather than adding it after, where the soap may not get fully mixed into the water. So adding it first allows you to agitate that soap, get it nice and mixed in, and create those suds that you're used to seeing when you're washing as well. So the last, but maybe one of the more important features of this bucket, or one of the big goals of our redesign, was onshoring it. It is now made in the USA, just a couple hours from our Plainfield, Indiana manufacturing facility, where we manufacture all of the chemical products that you guys love. And another cool part, really all the components, the box, the instruction insert, the warning label on the side, are all very local to that Indiana facility. So it's very close to home, very controlled QC and production, allows us to control the supply chain a lot more, and just overall a huge improvement across the board. So really excited about that one. Really excited for you guys to try it out, and we hope you love it.
Yep. A couple more questions really quick. We had one about whether the upgrade parts will be available for the old bucket. You can use the side...
the caddy.
Yeah, the caddy. Yeah. Sorry, brain fart. But you can use that with the old bucket. It fits on and it's fairly secure. It's not quite as snug of a fit with the new bucket.
It snaps on.
Yeah,
so yeah, it's
it will
totally
work.
compatible.
But the divider, the casters, none of that translates to the other bucket.
Yeah.
And then Dark Dragon 525 asked, does the divider completely stop water from mixing, aka one side with soap, one side with just water? It's not 100% watertight. It is really impressive how much it does divide the sides, but you will get a slight amount of transfer. It is 100% dirt tight, so it won't let any sediment transfer between the sides. I'd say it's like 99% watertight.
Yeah, and in my preference is to always add soap to both sides, or if you're doing a regular 2-bucket method with 2 different buckets, add soap to both buckets, because that soap is going to help release contaminant from your wash tools when you're rinsing them, and then again when you pick suds up from your clean side or your clean bucket, you obviously want soap in that one too, so you're taking that lubricity and cleaning ability back to the paint. So we always recommend adding soap to both sides, really, no matter what you're doing. And then of course, if you don't want to use the 2-bucket system, you can just pull that divider out and you've got access to the whole bucket as well. So pretty versatile setup, and allows you to do it in a much more compact, easier to take around the garage driveway package, rather than having 2 big 5-gallon buckets on casters that you have to store and then also maneuver around your garage or driveway. Even if you have them tied together, it's a much bigger, bulkier setup, harder to store, harder to manage. So this really optimizes it all for you.
Yep, so we kind of got off in the weeds describing all the features of our cool bucket, which is our giveaway. Go ahead and sound off in the chat if this is your first time joining us. We love to see you guys checking us out for the first time. In the meantime, let's really quick cover our news and events. We only have 2 coming up this month before show season fully ramps up. But we have our Indiana Caffeine and Gasoline at our manufacturing center. That's on June 14th. It's always a big one. That's going to be really fun, and they usually do a bunch of great sales at that event also.
And demos.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's our only caffeine and gasoline that we do every year at our manufacturing facility in Plainfield. So if you're in the area, it's a great day to come out. I'm sure they'll have some awesome sales going there, some giveaways, some demos. Great time to meet the folks that are our heart and soul there in Indy, keeping us running and keeping the products pumping out. So definitely, if you're in the area, put that on your calendar and don't miss it.
Yep.
Great time to be in Plainfield as well. June is usually right in the sweet spot before it starts getting a little hotter and less fun to be outside out there. So. Yep.
And then we have Back to the 50s, which is in Minnesota at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds, and that is from June 20th through the 22nd. That also is a really fun one, and you usually get to meet our beloved product developer, Jeffrey Brown.
Jeff Brown.
So definitely check that out if you're in the area.
Always out at Back to the 50s. And yeah, that's the weekend right after Father's Day, so if you're in the area there, take your dad out for a dad or your kids, out to an awesome car show. That's one of the biggest classic shows in the nation. It's a pretty huge turnout for that one, so great one to get to if you're in the area. And yeah, June, out here June, maybe halfway into July, that's like the real nice car show weather too. It's just right in the middle, great time to be spending your whole day outside hanging around cars.
Yep.
Anytime really, but especially June.
Yep.
And then we've got a code for you guys as well. Discount code is SM Garage. That's Sam Mary Garage for 25% off of creepers and 15% off select garage accessories. So I think we've had a couple questions about these ultimate detail carts that we have in front of us here. I believe those are included in the 15% off garage accessories sale. So if you want to pick up a cart, it's a good time to save a chunk of change off the carts, which rarely go on sale.
Yep.
A lot of our larger hard goods, like the carts and creepers, don't get put on sale often. So definitely a good time to outfit your garage, get a little more organized, and step up your comfort level with a nice creeper.
Yeah, and it's really easy to find out what is included in the sale. If you go to our website, there's a banner at the top that shows this exact sale. Go ahead and click on that. It'll take you to a landing page that has all of the accessories that are included in this sale.
Yeah, and of course, whether you're new or you've been here a while, but you've been naughty and not subscribed yet, make sure you get down below, hit the subscribe button, give us the like, the thumbs up, helps out a ton. And of course, comment, engage, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any future content, like our next YouTube Live on June 18th, which is my birthday.
Wow.
You guys come wish me a happy birthday on June 18th. Yeah, that will be a fun one.
Are we going to do another unicorn-themed birthday party?
I don't know. I forgot about that. That was like back during COVID times, I think, the last live we had on my birthday. Yeah, you guys got some pink cupcakes and get out of here, Matt.
Yep.
But yeah, that's our next live, so make sure you get that notification bell. Of course, Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram if you aren't already. We're doing a lot there lately, so Facebook and Instagram have been pretty hot with new content, as well as some announcements and our apparel drops. That's one of the best places to be the first to see those. So I'm wearing our current limited edition t-shirt that is available, I believe, for the next 2 weeks. I think, yeah. So get in there, get those while you can. That's a unique website code that you can access through the link in our bio or the link in the email that you received about the shirts as well. So that's another point of contact to hit. If you're not signed up for our email list, another great way to see everything that we're doing and be the first to know about sales and product drops. So never hurts to cover all the bases. We appreciate the support. Can't thank you guys enough for that. Helps us out a ton and gives us justification to keep doing more content for you guys. So
Yep. So we wanted to give away something pretty early on, and I think we should just give it away to one of the people who asked the first question. And I also saw that they said that they had been a customer for 15 years, but this is their first live event. So why not christen their live experience with us with a wash bucket? So Nick Michalko, if you want to send us an email to winners@griotsgarage.com, congratulations. You will now be the proud owner of our brand new wash bucket.
yeah, buddy. Fully kitted. Yeah, so you get the full meal deal there, $99 value. Great setup and perfect time. Get you set for the season with a nice new wash bucket.
Yep.
All right, well,
Yeah, shall we?
why is washing important?
Why isn't it? That's a better question.
It's,
Sorry, go ahead.
like we were talking about the other day when that question came up is, it's one of the most frequent acts that you do with your car other than drive it is wash it.
Yep.
Especially, if you're in the chat right now, you're one of us, you probably wash your car more than most folks out there. And it's a very impactful process on the longevity of your finishes, how long your protection lasts, how long your car looks good after a paint correction, how long you can keep it looking good after it's new. It's really one of the most impactful things that you'll do on your vehicle as far as long-term durability and a good appearance go. So
Yeah. So anytime you touch the vehicle, there's a chance that you're going to potentially impart some sort of scratch or swirl mark just because you are in some way abrading the surface. So like Sam said, being that this is the most frequent task that you're doing on your vehicle, this is arguably the most important to get right, because any of that hard work you put into polishing your paint, if you're not able to maintain it properly with your wash process, you're going to end up picking up swirls faster than you'd like.
yeah, you can quickly ruin a perfect paint correction with improper washing techniques or lazy washing techniques. So it's very imperative to get this part right. And there's also a lot of different ways you can do it. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. But yeah, it's really the foundation. Like Stevie said, those wash-induced swirls or scratches can be pretty bad depending on what tools you're using and how you're going about the process. And then of course, hand washing is really the way to go. Whether you're doing it traditional hose and bucket or with a foaming system, a foaming sprayer, a rinseless wash, even a waterless wash. Those are all going to be safer methods than going through a tunnel wash.
Yep, and I think that's an important thing to expand upon, because in our rinseless or winter washing live, we're talking about like a no-touch tunnel wash being an option if necessary. And yes, that is better than an actual touch, the microfiber spinny wash tunnel. But it's still not the best option. It's not a great one. Those harsh chemicals can really degrade the protection on your surface.
Or they just do a really poor job.
True.
I have a funny story from a couple of weeks ago. There was a new touchless wash facility that opened near my house. And my truck was dirty, and I was like, hey, it's touchless. I'll give it a shot, see how it does. And for the sake of testing, right, we're always testing stuff on our vehicles. So I was just curious, and I was like, hey, give this one a whirl. It's been a while since I had gone through a touchless wash. And my daughter was with me, and it was funny to see her reaction when we got out of the truck after the touchless wash. I was just drying a couple spots up, and she recognized it before me because she was walking around the truck, while I was on one side drying some stuff off, and she's like, "Dad, this side's not even clean." And one side of my truck was literally like not perfectly clean, but pretty close. The other side, I don't know if like the cleaning solution turned off when it was hitting that side or what, but it literally did not look like it did anything. So had a 50-50 split on that, and it was pretty funny. So just one scenario. Not saying they're all bad, but I will not be going back to that touchless wash.
Yeah, I mean, I remember early in my days when I had a similar scenario, and even, you pay the extra for the wheel and tire package, and then you get out and your wheels still look like trash, so.
Yeah. Not always getting what you pay for there, so keep that in mind. But, that's really using the best process is crucial to saving yourself time and energy down the road, keeping your car looking good, making sure that you're not wasting your time when you're polishing it and getting the paint cleaned up looking nice. So lots of different ways. Again, I think prep is going to also be important in this process. Not only how you're washing, but keeping in mind things like time of day and not washing in direct sunlight if you can help it. Some of you guys might be mobile detailers and don't always have a choice as to washing in direct sun. But there's definitely some things you can do to help mitigate the issues there. Washing the shaded side of the vehicle and then flipping it around. Scheduling out your job so you're doing the washing either early in the morning or late in the evening when the sun is low. Lots of different ways to help mitigate that. But I would say, not avoiding direct sunlight, if at all possible, is always best practice. And then, inspecting the vehicle for any kind of extraneous circumstance that might impact how you wash the car. Things like, heavy tar, bug guts, tree sap. Say you got just a smattering of fresh tree sap across the car. You parked under a tree that was dumping this time of year, something like that. If that sap is fresh and sticky, it can sometimes create problems when you take a wash mitt over it, potentially spreading it. So there's some different approaches that you may want to take depending on what you're up against, as well as how dirty the car is may dictate which type of wash process you use.
Yep.
And then taking that information and deciding on a wash process. Of course, that's also going to depend on what you have in your garage or your cabinet to wash the car. But you want to make sure, if it's dead winter, you can't go outside, but the car is filthy dirty, you may say, okay, I want to wash it right now, but I'm going to wait until it heats up because it's too dirty to do a rinseless wash on, or so on and so forth. Or, in a lot of my cases, like when I was just out off-roading, I got a bunch of mud on the truck, I'm definitely going to do, foaming system and add some multiple steps to make it safer. So lots of different qualifiers there.
Yep. So like Sam said, you want to take all those different factors, right? So how much time you have, what your water conditions are like, what the weather's like. So whether you can do it indoor or need to do it outdoor with a full water solution, how dirty the vehicle is. So whether you would need a more lubricated option than a rinseless or waterless option. All of these factors are going to tie together to determine the best wash process for you. And remember that if you're not sure if a process might not be as lubricated as you need, definitely bump up. So if you think it might be too dirty for a rinseless or waterless, it's better to then move up to either a hose and bucket or a foam cannon wash than to risk it with the waterless or rinseless. But determine the best wash process for your specific scenario, and then gather all of your materials before you start, especially if you're doing like a hose and bucket wash or a foam cannon wash outside, because you want to make sure that you're not allowing these products to dry on the surface. If you say foam your product on and then realize, oh, that's right, I need to fill my bucket and grab a wash mitt, and by the time you come back, the product's already drying on the surface. So definitely gather your materials ahead of time. And then you always want to start with the dirty jobs first. So that's going to be your wheels and tires, your engine bay if you're doing that. And that's to make sure that you're not cleaning your paint and then rinsing those dirty, nasty surfaces and getting gross water all over your clean paint. Do those dirty, nasty jobs first and then wash the rest of the vehicle. You see something good?
No.
Okay.
Not necessarily good, just funny. No,
Yeah.
Ria car or race car, I'm guessing it's a play on race car, asked if my mustache is also a wash tool. And now that would definitely risk some scratching. It's a little on the coarse side. I prefer to keep it clean, keep my face away from the dirty car.
That is a funny visual, though.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like your little key module in your scrunchie. All right. Scott Dayhoff said, "Don't you guys hate when you're washing your car at home and all your neighbors drive by and say, 'Hey, you want to do mine next?'" Just smile and wave, Scott. Smile and wave.
Yeah, we get that all the time
yes,
here.
we all hate that.
Yeah, whenever we used to wash, before we had the wash bay, we'd wash up front and do our testing, and we'd always get the, "Oh, if I pull my car up, will you do mine?"
Yeah.
It's funny, like the first 10 times. After that, it's like,
I don't
okay.
know. Maybe the first time. No, it's classic. It's one of those if I had a nickel for every time scenarios. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, I think it's time for a demo. What do you say,
Yeah.
Stevie? All right, get
Yeah.
some wheel washing. So that's kind of the next phase with your process is we always recommend washing your wheels first. Gets that hard part out of the way and ensures that you're not washing them at the end while water's drying on the paint, or you're not reintroducing dirty water to an already dry surface, washing them after you've dried. So what's up, Julie?
Before you begin, Carlos Riviera asks a great question, which is, what's that car you guys got behind you?
Oh, yeah. This is Alex.
This is my new car. I'm just kidding.
Alex, our new copywriter, is a JDM guy, and he has this sweet Nismo 350Z. The Nissan 350Z, but it's the specific Nismo version. So it has the Nismo wheels, the aero package, some different accents around it as well. I'm not sure. I know it has bigger brakes with the Brembos. I'm not sure as far as actual engine performance, if that's any different than a standard 350, but pretty cool car. Obviously, it's a great color. It's very Griot's red, and the Nismo wheels are pretty sweet. Not something you see every day. So yeah, you don't see a lot of these Nismo edition 350s out there. So,
Yep.
Pretty cool car, and of course the color works great for us.
Yeah. I promise it's dirtier than it looks. He did recently polish and wax it, so it's pretty reflective, and that hides dirt.
Sorry,
on
Alex.
camera.
I'll commit the cardinal
Oh,
sin and
no.
drag my finger across. Yeah, you can see that's pretty dirty.
All right, well, Sam's repolishing that door
Dirty
after this.
finger there.
So these wheels aren't super nasty. If they were pretty, especially muddy or nasty, but if you had a lot of particulate on here, it is a good idea to rinse the surface first. But because they're not that bad, spraying the product on dry actually allows you a little longer dwell time. So that's what we're gonna do here.
Yeah.
I've got heavy duty wheel cleaner, which is not faced for y'all, sorry. Heavy duty wheel cleaner. I'm gonna spray onto the wheel.
So I'm not sure. I haven't cleaned these wheels before personally, and with the Brembos on there, they might not have metallic brake pads. So we'll see what kind of color change we get, if any, from the HD. But heavy duty wheel cleaner contains the active sodium thioglycolate, so it will normally, if you have metallic brake pads, it will normally react with the brake dust and cause that purple runoff, which tells you that it's working. Once you see that color change, you know that it's begun to dissolve and break down those ferrous metal particles, helping to release them from the surface and make them easier to remove.
Yep.
Looks like we're getting a little bit
Yeah.
of purple.
Yeah, you
Coming
guys will
off of
probably see
those,
it here in a
so-
second. It's starting to leak down onto the floor, but
Yeah, a lot of performance cars, you have semi-metallic or ceramic brake pads. If they're all ceramic, you won't get really any bleed except for what you see on the rotor. And then, of course, really high-end performance vehicles, you may have carbon ceramic brakes where the rotors are not steel. And in that situation, you're not going to get any bleed from HD. So you can still use it. It's not going to hurt anything. It's still a very effective wheel cleaner. but you won't get that color bleed. So if you don't see that, it's because you don't have metallic brake pads.
Yep. Steve Kunder asked a great question. I learned something new. I was taught to wash from the top down. Now I will do wheels first. The top down is still recommended when you're agitating the paint surface and the rest of the vehicle, but you do want to start with the wheels and tires and or engine bay first prior to doing that, just to make sure that you get those nasty sections out of the way. The top down is really going to help make sure that you're not carrying this nasty grit and debris on the lower portions of the vehicle up to the top. So we will talk about top down here in a second once we get to the paint. That is still valid, but you do want to do your wheels and tires first.
Yeah, it does kind of, you know, if you're thinking in literal sense of top down, yeah, you would, applying that, you know, you would do the wheels at the end. But I used to do my wheels at the end before I started working here, and it was really one of those things where it's like, okay, I definitely see the light, saves time. It also just gets out, you know, wheel cleaning can be a little more onerous than cleaning the rest of the vehicle, so it gets it out of the way and prevents you from, you know, having issues, like I said earlier, with water drying on the paint or reintroducing water to a dry surface, those types of things, so.
Yep. Arthur Martinez is enjoying a vodka tonic while watching from the cruise ship. Cheers.
Nice.
Cheers. We were just talking about how a margarita sounded good before this.
Yeah,
it's a little warm in this
send
wash
one of
bay.
those our way. Sounding Gloss asks, wait, what was that foaming sorcery? That was our awesome foaming tire cleaner that Stevie used. So since we launched Wheel Tire Mat Cleaner, that product's been getting a lot of the spotlight, but breaking those two processes out will typically give you a more thorough clean on the rubber. Foaming tire cleaner is one of our most capable tire cleaning products. There it is. The foaming tire cleaner. The aerosol delivery is really nice. You get that nice heavy foam. Distributes very quickly. No squeezing of the trigger, you know, on a spray bottle. Just hold that actuator down and go to town.
Yep. So you may notice that as I'm agitating, I started at the bottom of the wheel and I'm working my way up. This is the one scenario where you're not going to follow the top-down rule, and that's because the brush itself or whatever wheel cleaning tool that you're using holds onto the water from the bucket that you're rinsing it in. If you start at the top of the wheel, it's going to rinse all that product off. If you start at the bottom, it's going to give the top still longer to dwell so that you're not essentially rinsing it all off at once.
Yep. Yeah, and another good tip is to, you know, pick a marker, you know, a landmark, if you will, on the wheel as to your starting point, so you're not, you know, forgetting and potentially missing spots. The valve stem's a great way to do that, or, you know, like this wheel, you've got the Nismo graphic on it. You know, pick that, or pick a spoke if you have one at the bottom center. You know, start working clockwise or counterclockwise, and
I'll
make sure
usually
you get all the way back to your starting point.
Yep, I'll usually pick one of the lower openings to start, because you want to start with the barrel and then work your way to the face. I'll usually pick one of the lower openings, work my way halfway up to the top, and then the other way halfway up to the top.
Yeah, and cleaning the barrels is well worth your time, especially if you have nice wheels or newer wheels that you want to keep in really good shape. Keeping those barrels clean will make that a lot easier. A lot of times once you let the barrels go, they're going to be very tough to get completely clean again once that brake dust starts to you know, create those really stubborn deposits that are difficult to remove. So being diligent about cleaning the barrels every time you do your wheels will ensure that, you know, you're not having to take the wheels off and do a full resto clean on them down the road.
Yep.
Again, especially if you have a newer car or nice wheels. What's up, Julie?
Alex Pose is wondering, how does he decide whether to use wheel cleaner or heavy duty wheel cleaner?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll typically give the qualifiers of how dirty your wheels are. You know, a vehicle that has really high dusting brake pads, like BMWs are known for that. That's a situation where I would almost always recommend HD wheel cleaner. If you have lower dusting brakes or your wheels just simply don't get that dirty, wheel cleaner is going to be perfectly sufficient. Wheel cleaner is the safest and most mild of all of our wheel cleaners. That being said, HD wheel and wheel tire mat are also very safe. But if you were to have a very, very delicate wheel surface, say you painted them aftermarket at home yourself, that would be a situation where you might be better erring on the wheel cleaner side to prevent any issues with that aftermarket finish. But really, they're all very safe, so I tend to qualify it based on how dirty the wheels get. And that's really up to you, depending on the vehicle and how heavy of dust you get from the brake system, and then as well as how often you're washing it or cleaning the wheels.
I really hope Matt's putting my audio down so you can't hear me panting as I'm scrubbing this wheel.
Oh, come on. Hasn't been that long since you've cleaned the wheel. Yeah. And right now, Stevie's doing the tire. So cleaning your tires while you're cleaning the wheels, definitely one of those while you're in there tasks. You'd be doing yourself a disservice if you're not cleaning your tires during your wheel cleaning process. Just saves you from having to do it on the back end and helps ensure a completely clean tire. Yeah, she's using a tire scrubbing brush there. It's a concave nylon bristle brush with flag bristles that's a little more aggressive than a standard wheel brush or any brush that you would use on the paint system. So it really helps dig into that rubber and clean everything out. Yep. What's up, Julie?
Jonathan Anderson asks, is it true you shouldn't go crazy scrubbing your tires? Just a light brushing?
No, I would say you can scrub rubber quite aggressively. I've actually used wire brushes, like a mild brass bristle brush to get graphics and stamping off of tires before. Obviously you want to do that very gently so you don't mar up or scratch the rubber badly, but I would say that no concern really with scrubbing your tires, especially if you're using a tire brush. It's going to be designed specifically for agitating rubber, so there's no risk there. You do want to be cautious of the wheel when you're scrubbing the tires to make sure that you're not banging a hard brush head into the wheel lip or taking a really aggressive bristle across a delicate wheel lip. But outside of that, you can scrub away on tires. Yeah. And I've gone back and forth between using the tire scrub brush and the Ergo Wave foam scrubber on tires. It's really a matter of preference. A lot of times it depends on the tires. I'll use the tire scrub brush on a larger or like knobbier sidewall, like an all-terrain or mud-terrain tire. And then a lot of times I'll use the Ergo Wave on low-pro stuff like this that doesn't have a lot of texture. Yeah,
I was going to say we could have gone for an Ergo Wave on this because I was being a little delicate in here just because the fitment is so, there's not enough room here to get that brush in. So I was kind of angling it back into the opening of the wheel well. Yep. But an Ergo Wave would be a great option for tires like
That's another great consideration. I mean, this car is low, but it's not that low. So if you have something that's slammed and you don't have a lot of tire exposed where the tire meets the fender of the wheel well, that Ergo Wave is gonna make it easier to get in there.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna rinse.
All right. RM asks, does the wash mop head fit in the bucket? Yes, it does. We made sure that the halves were sized as such so that wash mop head and all of our other wash tools like our boar's head brush will fit on either side of the bucket when the divider is installed. And then you can also, with the divider removed, you can also fit a wider wash head, say for like a floor mop or something like that as well. So lots of versatility there.
Yep.
So nice and clean wheel, pretty straightforward process. You used what? 4 different brushes, including the tire brush?
Yeah, I used the large bendable wheel brush, the boar's hair, the wheel mitt, and then the tire scrubbing brush.
Yeah. Don't sleep on the boar's hair brushes. I would say, if you don't have one of those, I would definitely pick one up. That's probably one of my most commonly used accessories, if you will. Yeah. I have like 4 of them, one for wheels, one for body, like under the gas door jam, stuff like that, and then one for interior and one for engine bay. And some of those other more specialty areas as well. But
Yeah.
great tools.
Yeah, especially on this wheel. I use it for the lug nuts, the little center cap here. Typically they'll have like raised emblems, and that's really good at getting into those little crevices and corners and cracks. And then this wheel specifically also has these little ridges in the center of the spokes, which can be tricky to get into. And then of course the lettering there where it says forged. So just getting down into those little crevices and intricate areas, the boar's hair really does a great job at.
Yep. Yeah, so the type of brushes you use on your wheels really going to depend on the style of wheels. You know, simple 5-spoke wheels like this are great because you don't need a lot of brushes. You don't have to use really intricate tools. But you know, if you have a really intricate multi-spoke wheel, you know, you may want some smaller brushes. Definitely one of those boar's hair brushes, the smaller bendable brush, smaller microfiber wands and such. But just keep that in mind when you're shopping wheel brushes.
Yeah.
What the wheels you're cleaning look like, because I've honestly gotten into a space after cleaning so many wheels that some of the new cars I look at and I'm like, man, I would never buy that just because I would not want to clean those wheels. Of course, wheels can be swapped out pretty easy, but Stevie's getting after her. She's going to go ahead and do the second one, making Alex real happy. Let's see. What other? LT1 Bill asked, can you wash your car too much? Man, I would say no, with the caveat of, you know, what Stevie mentioned at the beginning of the live, that technically every time you touch your vehicle's paint and abrade the surface, even with, you know, a gentle wash mitt and soap, you are risking causing some level of defect. So that's something to keep in mind. You know, I probably wouldn't go as far as like washing more than once or twice a week at the most. Of course, if you're washing frequently and you have good protection on the surface, specifically if you're using like our Boss foaming system, you can accomplish a touchless wash if the vehicle is not getting incredibly dirty. So in that scenario, say you could really wash as often as you want if you're doing it touchless, because then there's no risk involved. So
Yeah. I would say the law of diminishing return is something to keep in mind too, though. Could you wash your car daily if you wanted to? Yeah, sure, but is it worth it? Is the energy expenditure and potential risks worth the extra effort?
yeah, and there's some, you know, interim solutions like rinseless washes, detail sprays, stuff like that prevent you from getting out the whole kit that you need to do an actual wash. So definitely lots of options there, but I would tend to say no as long as you're using the right processes. And you know, if your definition of a wash is taking it through the local car wash tunnel, then
Absolutely.
yes, you can definitely wash your car too much, because even one time is too many for going through a brush tunnel. But let's see. And Angel Medina asked, should we be concerned about removing or scrubbing off all of the browning from your tires? No. Browning on tires is typically caused by what's called tire blooming, and that's where the anti-ozonant in the rubber leaches to the surface and creates that brown residue. That can be cleaned off quite easily, but typically once it starts, it's not going to stop. So even if you clean it off, it will most likely come back. Some manufacturers are worse than others when it comes to tire blooming, and it's also accelerated by prolonged UV exposure. So if you have a vehicle that sits outside, uncovered, where the tires are exposed, and it's not being used a lot, that will also increase the chances of tire blooming. But foaming tire cleaner and rubber prep and wheel tire mat cleaner are all quite effective at removing the browning from tire blooming. Just keep in mind that it may come back. It's not necessarily a sign that your tires are dirty or you're using inferior products or anything like that. It's just a nature of the rubber on the tires, or in the tires.
Yep.
But good question. We get a lot of questions about tire blooming this time of year. Let's see. Joey Kyler asks, outside of using a TDS meter, how do I know when I need to change out the resin in the portable DI system I got? Really, TDS meter is the best way. The only other way to know is when you start getting water spots again, which obviously is less than ideal. You don't want to wait that long to swap out your resin because then you've already got spots. So I would say, depending on how often you're washing, using a TDS meter to check your TDS level probably once a month during the frequently used parts of the year where you're using that DI system a lot, once a month, and then maybe during the slower times of year, every other month at least. But depends on the yield of your DI system based on the TDS of the water that's going into it, and getting an actual estimate of how long you can go. If you're using a pressure washer in line with the DI, that's going to help maximize life as well because pressure washers use a lot less water, so you're not going to run through that resin quite as quickly. But definitely test. I'd probably say at least once a month during the busy season. And yeah, TDS meter. You can also use TDS strips. If you don't have a meter and you don't want to wait to order one, most hardware stores carry the TDS strips. So you can test your water that way as well, and they're pretty inexpensive. Of course, the meter is a little easier to read, get a definitive number versus a range, which you're normally going to be getting on the strips. So that's a tricky one. Let's see.
Sorry, I'm almost done.
Marlon Cooper said, I've been using sponges to detail my truck. Do you recommend them? Yes and no. Marlon, there's definitely sponges out there that are better than others. I would say ideally you want to avoid the old school sponges where it's just one broad surface on the sponge and you don't have much to trap contaminant and keep it away from the paint surface. Think if you wipe across a dirty rocker panel with a broad sponge and then you have pine needles and grit and crap sitting on the face of your sponge that you might then take above that or below that and scratch the surface, whereas a wash mitt or a sponge that has some nap or some texture to it on the surface, that's going to give that dirt and contaminant somewhere to go so that hopefully it's not sitting right on the surface for the next surface that you go over with that tool. So not all sponges are bad. Some of them can be though. So just keep that in mind. And our mitts and washcloths and wash pads are pretty inexpensive as well and very high quality. So that's a good upgrade if you are using an older sponge.
Yep. I'm gonna rinse this real quick.
Quite a bit came off of those. Those are dirtier than they look. Gunmetal wheels can be a double-edged sword because they definitely don't look dirty, but as you can see on those were quite dirty. You don't have to worry about it before. Great job, Stevie. Those look wonderful. Not your first time cleaning wheels, that's for sure. See, C Squared asked, what product do you guys recommend to pre-soak lower areas prior to foaming? Another good question. I always use our foaming surface prep diluted at 10-to-1 in the secondary bottle to pre-soak the rocker panels and any heavily soiled areas. I don't always do that, not every wash, but if I've gone a bit longer between washes or I was driving in an environment where the rockers got really soiled, or it's a week of rain where you got lots of road film, that sort of thing, soaking that in a lower third of the vehicle with foaming surface prep diluted at 10-to-1 will really loosen that up and make it easier to remove, especially if you're using the full foaming system and a pressure washer.
Someone had asked about if you use foaming surface prep 10-to-1 every wash. Did you already touch on that?
No.
Okay,
no.
So we don't recommend it before every wash just because remember that is stripping some of the protection that's on the surface. So if you have a healthy coat, it may not completely remove it, but it is definitely degrading it. So it's not recommended for every wash, just as needed.
Yeah.
Should we get to the wash demo? It's your turn to.
Yeah. Before we move on, a couple more wheel questions. Chris Christensen asked, are all your wheel and tire cleaners safe for carbon ceramic brakes? Yes, all of our cleaners are. However, with carbon ceramic brakes, you want to stay away from any silicone dressings. So really no aerosol tire dressings around carbon ceramic brakes. I would even be careful with non-aerosols personally. I know I've seen some pretty gnarly horror stories of silicone from tire dressing penetrating a carbon ceramic rotor, which creates a weak spot, which causes a crack and a catastrophic failure when it heats up. I know I was on the Porsche forums a couple years ago, and there was a Porsche owner on there who had wrecked his Porsche race car because of tire dressing on the carbon ceramic rotors. The rotor basically shattered under heavy braking, and he crashed the car. So do not use any silicone around or on surfaces that are close to carbon ceramic brakes. Definitely a big no-no, and I think that will actually void Porsche's warranty on those brake systems as well if they can prove that you've used silicone on your tires. So that's something to keep in mind on top of that. Those warranties are not cheap to add on to a purchase, so definitely want to keep those effective for you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to task you with picking the next winner because we do need to give something else away. We're about half an hour or an hour in. Jeez. In the meantime,
Time
though,
flies when you're having fun.
Paul Wortman asked if I will come wash your car. No. Hefe281 asked.
She doesn't pull any punches, guys.
Can you scroll down a little bit, Julie? Just a hair. No other way. Right there. Hefe281 asked, the lower sections of my car seem to go flat quickly. Should I just keep washing with pH neutral soap, or do you have a chemical to unclog? I use ceramic 3-in-1 wax and know it lasts a while. It's important to remember that even if you have protection on the surface, it can still build up contaminants, and especially on lower portions of the vehicle, that can clog your protectant and therefore cause the water to look a little more flat. So I would suggest a decontamination, like a synthetic clay, see how that impacts the wax, or depending on the conditions that the vehicle is enduring, there can be chemicals like road deicers and things like that, especially through the winter months, that kind of kick up on the lower portions of the vehicle, and those can be detrimental to wax protections, especially if left on there for a long time. So it may be something where the lower portion of your vehicle has been trashed by those chemicals and does need a reapplication of protection.
Good answer. So where's the brush question? Where'd it go? I lost it. The Z asked, how do you remove grit from your brush as you wash? One way is with the washboard on the new Ultimate Wash Bucket 2 Caddy. So you've got this sweet little surface in here that acts as a washboard to help knock grit and crud out of your brush or wash tool.
Yeah.
So here, let me
The
turn.
floating camera.
Yeah, so you can see it there. That washboard surface is intended to help agitate and kick stuff out of your brush or wash tool. So a nice reason to add that caddy on to your bucket purchase. Outside of that, I'll usually do a combination of agitating on the washboard and rinsing. I like to put a little bit of water in my caddy so I can quickly rinse out that brush in the caddy. If the brush gets really nasty, like I've had a couple washes, or I'm doing a car that hasn't been washed in a while, and like rear hatches specifically on like vans and hatchbacks, or trunk jams, on a Cooper sedan, you get that heavy, nasty pollen, mildew, pine needle buildup, and it tends to like cake up in a brush. A lot of times those situations, I don't want that crap in my bucket, so I'm gonna just rinse it off with my pressure washer or my hose every time to make sure that that's not getting mixed back into my wash solution when you have that really sandy pine needle grit. So yeah, no good there, but definitely rinse your wash tools. Somebody else asked, what's the most common mistake people make in washing? And I think that is probably one of them, being that it's easy to get carried away washing the car and forget that you need to wash your wash tool as you're going around the car and rinse that off. I know you see countless folks like dunk it once at the beginning and then wash half the car before they go back and redunk it in the bucket. Had to give my oldest son instruction on that the last time we were washing at home. Say, bud, you're not dunking your mid enough. Yep. So I always recommend, every section really. So fender, dunk. Probably half a door, dunk. Other half of the door, dunk.
Yep.
Rear quarter, dunk.
If you're not sure, dunk.
Yeah. If you're doing the 2-bucket method, you can double dunk. I think somebody on YouTube on our bucket video, it might have been one of you guys, coined it the double dunker, which I love. It's a great one.
Yep.
All right, what else we got? Any other good questions before we move on to another demo?
Did you pick a winner?
Oh, no. I may or may not have been trying to deflect that off onto someone else, but let's see. Where was that? Julie, I think it's on the Word doc side. Can you scroll and find who asked what's the most common mistake people make for washing?
That was LT1 Bill.
LT1 Bill. All right, LT1 Bill, you are our next winner of the Ultimate Wash Bucket 2. So LT1 Bill, please reach out to us at winners@griotsgarage.com with your mailing address, and we will get one of those shipped out to you ASAP. Just as a quick disclaimer, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but our lovely employee who normally takes care of all of the giveaway shipments for you guys, he's out, so we have somebody else doing that. So if it takes a couple more days, bear with us, be patient. We will get you your giveaway, no questions asked. What's up, Julie?
Daniel's Garage asked, I use a surface wash as my pre-wash. Which of your car soaps has the highest lubricity for the contact wash?
Are you using the foaming system, I'm assuming, because he mentioned surface wash?
But then he mentions contact wash.
Yeah, which is still normally part of a foaming wash, depending, but foaming surface wash is definitely one of our highest lubricity products, specifically if you're foaming it on with a Canon. So depending on your scenario, what you're washing, how dirty it is, you might switch to prep as your pre-wash and foaming surface wash as your contact wash step, or just use foaming surface wash for both. Foam it on as your pre-wash, do your pressure rinse, foam it back on, do your mechanical, touch, wash, mitt portion. Struggling to find my words here, and then rinse again. You don't necessarily have to use a separate product for that, because foaming surface wash is definitely top tier in terms of lubricity.
He's also wondering if he can use surface wash as a contact wash soap.
Yeah,
and the answer would be yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, which might as well get into that part of the demonstration here. So we'll throw surface wash on our Boss foam cannon, and we'll do just that. We'll do the pre-wash with that, and then we'll also do the contact wash there. So. Oh no, I don't need water. We're just gonna dunk her right in. So one of the big benefits of the Boss foam cannon and the Boss foaming system is the SureFlow metering system, or SureFlow metering tips. So we have the purple metering tip in the Boss cannon today, since we're running an electric pressure washer in here. Benefit of that metering system is it allows you to drop straight into concentrate without having to pre-dilute. You also have dual threads on the Boss cannon, so you can thread this straight onto your 35-ounce bottle of foaming surface wash concentrate. No need to mix or measure, just get straight to foaming. That's always my preferred way to do it. So that's how we're going to do it today. We will do a pre-wash or a pre-soak, so we'll foaming surface wash on the surface, let it dwell, and then we're going to pressure rinse it before we touch it. Then we're going to refoam it again. And we'll talk about some of the reasons that we do that, the benefits of doing that. The goal of a foaming wash is really to get the safest possible wash process, least chance of any wash-induced scratches. So that's why we do that pre-wash, pressure rinse, foam again, and then contact wash, which I'll talk about more as we go through here. I'll dial that in. So I've got my pickup dial all the way clockwise, tightened down so it's got full extraction from the reservoir. And then normally on a smaller car, I'll kind of dial my nozzle in right in the middle, not too wide, not too narrow. And then we always recommend foaming from the bottom up. So this is only when you're applying your foam and doing your initial rinse. The reasoning for that being that it allows maximum dwell time for all of the foam on the vehicle. Just do half for demonstration's sake. Make sure I didn't miss the whole front end here. The foaming from the bottom up is to maximize dwell time. If you start top down, once you get the whole car covered, your foam on the top is going to have started to, run down. So foaming bottom up, uses gravity to give you more dwell time out of that foam. We recommend, normally right around 3 to 5 minutes of dwell. You can also go longer than that, but you do not want to let the foam dry on the surface. So typically on around 70 degrees, you've got, I'd say probably 5 to 7 or 8 minutes. I try to keep it right in that 5-minute realm, so I'm not risking anything drying, but you can let it dwell longer as long as it's not drying. Tip there. So we'll let it dwell. While it's dwelling, it's encapsulating, emulsifying, loosening up all that dirt and contaminant that's on the surface so that when we do our first pressure rinse, we're going to have the best chance of getting all of that off. This is another really common mistake. I'd say this is probably the most common mistake or misunderstanding maybe of people who use a foaming wash or a foam cannon. Is they'll typically do a pressure rinse first, where you're just using water, which then the surface is wet. Then they'll foam right over that, and then they'll mitt right on top of that. Few problems with that, in that your pressure rinse hopefully got off a lot of the contaminant, but since there wasn't any cleaning solution on the surface to help break it down, you're not quite maximizing that portion. And then you're leaving more risk, more on the surface for when you do foam on. Yes, you have the lubricity of that layer of foam, but there's more on the surface underneath that, and then you're agitating right over the top of that, potentially risking wash-induced scratches. So the pre-wash rinse and then foam again and do your contact wash. Yes, it adds steps, but it also adds a lot of safety. So I'd say, if you just did a full paint correction, or you have a really nice paint job that you cherish, or a brand new car that's in perfect condition still, employing this type of a process is going to ensure that your paint stays that way. Yep. Nick's Bronco is a really good example. That thing's 2 years old now. I think 2. It's got to be. He's had it for 2 full years. He daily drives it. He has not done a full paint correction on it, and the last time we washed it and looked at the paint, it was nearly perfect, because every time he washes it, he uses this exact process. So now, foam's not starting to dry, but just for time's sake, we'll go ahead and start rinsing. I'm also going to rinse from the bottom up. So again, a little counterintuitive to what we talked about with a traditional wash method where you wash from the top down. We rinse from the bottom up. Again, it's a little unconventional compared to what you'll see elsewhere on the internet, but again, it's to allow for maximum dwell time. If I start rinsing from the top, pretty much all my foam is going to be gone after I rinse, the first line across the top of the car, because that water is going to carry the foam down. So if I start at the bottom, I'm getting more dwell time out of the foam on those upper surfaces instead of just rinsing it all away. So
yeah, as a good reminder, anytime you're touching the surface, that's when you want to be mindful at the top down. Yep. With the pre-wash and the foam application and the rinsing. It doesn't necessarily matter that you're going from the bottom up, because you're not touching that contaminant and bringing it up.
Yeah, and then once the surface is clean, I'll mention this again when we make it to this step, at that point, I'll go ahead and rinse top down. So go ahead and keep talking if you want to answer some questions, Stevie. I'm just going to start rinsing.
Yeah, for sure. RM asks, does the wash mop head fit in the bucket? And yes, it does. With the divider installed, it's going to be a little more tight, but if you pull the divider out and use it as is, it fits perfectly in there. AR in SoCal asked, how many of your pods per bucket? Is it one or one per side? The entire bucket holds 6 gallons. You can do 4 to 6 gallons of water and throw 1 pod in, and pod dissolves and you mix the soap, install the divider. That's what I would do. You don't need one per side. You could do that. It's going to be a little overkill, a little bit over diluted. So I would recommend just throwing 1 pod in, filling it, and then installing your divider. Let's see. I'm having trouble reading right now, sorry. There was a question that I don't see right now, but it was about why we're using foaming surface wash and not foaming surface prep in this case. And that would be because there is a base protectant on this surface that we're not trying to remove or degrade too much. And so using foaming surface wash is going to give us a safe and effective clean without stripping that protectant that's on there. If we were planning on reapplying protection, then foaming surface prep would definitely be a great option here. But just as a regular maintenance wash, foaming surface wash is going to still be really effective and safe without having that additional stripping factor. And the filth on this vehicle really wasn't that bad. Yes, it was soiled and it was fairly soiled, but it wasn't anything crazy that required foaming surface prep. Do the other half. Paul S. asked, what is the best way to clean out my foam cannon? As I have had an issue with the foam after using the ceramic washing coat, the best way is immediately after use, before you put your cannon away, run some water through it.
Yep. Yeah, never store the cannon in solution as well. That's the best way to kill it quickly. So just to point out, normally I would do that. I would go around the entire bottom of the vehicle. For time's sake, we're just washing the driver's side. We'll do the other side after the live. So I did that a little differently, but just wanted to point that out. Normally I would go bottom up all the way around and then rinse the top all at once. One cool tip that I'll share that I just learned a couple years ago from Jeff is when you're rinsing, especially the flat surfaces like your hood, your roof, your trunk lid, instead of standing at the front and rinsing the surface up towards the hood. So you rinse one side, you've gone around the other side if you're doing bottom up. Then to prevent having to go back and forth, rinsing the sides off again, you'll push the water from the side, rinse from the side, sweeping across the panel, pushing it all to the other side. That way you've only got one side to re-rinse instead of having to come kind of chase soap and suds around the vehicle.
If we're talking technique, you could also do a variation where you
speeds it up a little bit.
Where you stand at the front corner and use gravity to pull it down.
Yep, for sure. All right, so that was our initial rinse. So we haven't actually mitted the car yet, but I can see now down here where I swiped my fingers across at the beginning, there is much less road film and grit down low there. So I can do another swipe and my finger's barely getting dirty now. So I know that's going to be much safer and out of touch with a wash tool than it was prior. And it wouldn't have gotten that clean if we had just rinsed it and not used foaming surface wash to help break down all that grit.
Yep.
So I'm going to throw the cannon back on. Same solution, foaming surface wash, straight on with the metering tip. We'll go ahead and foam her back up.
So with this again, he's foaming from the bottom up. Daniel's Garage asks, why does surface wash not have bucket dilutions on the bottle? That's because it is recommended for foaming tool use, not use in a bucket.
Yeah, the whole foaming system is designed specifically for cannon and foaming tool use. The main reason we left that off is because of the viscosity. That being said, in a pinch, you can dilute it in a bucket. I would apply a pretty similar dilution ratio to what's on the back for your cannon to pre-dilute. I think it's 1.8 ounces, I believe, 1.6. So yeah, 1.5 to 2 ounces in your bucket. Fill it up, 4 to 5 gallons of water should be pretty appropriate. But ideally, we recommend our soaps that we recommend for bucket diluting. But in a pinch, if you don't have anything else, you have to do it. It's not necessarily going to hurt anything, but it's best used in the cannons and the foaming sprayer as well. So now, typically I won't let it dwell for quite as long for this second step. You could if you want to do, especially if the surface is really heavily soiled. In this case, that pre-soak and pre-rinse got a lot of the heavy stuff off. So we'll go ahead and start mitting. And now we're going to mitt from the top down.
Yeah.
So using the 2-bucket method, find my dirty side there, clean side here. So I'm going to dunk the clean mitt in the clean side.
We did have a comment about the noise of the pressure washer. I do want to clarify, this is not as loud as a lot of other pressure washers. It just sounds that way because it's in a little enclosed area surrounded by hard surfaces.
And we have really good lav mics.
And there's nothing to
So
dampen the
they pick up
sound, so it's
everything.
just echoing off of everything, amplifying itself.
Yeah, it is a very manageable decibel level in the real world.
Yep. Let's see.
All right. So now, make sure I go back to the dirty side, agitate that, wring it out in the dirty side, and then pick up fresh suds from that clean side.
Yep.
Keep on working here.
And this is where Sam is using the top-down method, making sure that he's not picking up those contaminants from the lower sections and dragging those to the higher sections.
Yep. Now that I'm doing the contact wash. Always top down when you're doing the contact portion.
Yep.
Always, always.
Yep, and then you'll want to keep an eye. It's not going to be nearly as, I don't want to say important because it is still important, but it's not going to be nearly as crucial to keep an eye on your wash tool after doing a prep step like we did, but it's still best case scenario just to give a quick glance to your wash tool as you're working your way around the vehicle. Even if you get, say, halfway down the door and you realize that there's quite a bit on your wash tool, dunk it in the bucket, rinse it, and then keep going. You could also use a separate wash tool for below the belt line. That way you have that separate tool for the really nasty, dirty areas, and then keep the clean, pristine tool for the higher portions that aren't quite as contaminated.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we include 2 colors in our wash mitt and wash pad sets. So that you have one for above the belt, one for below.
Binford is really watching your process and wants you to make sure you're using straight lines.
I'm doing my best. It's always hard. I always find it hard washing during lives or really like any type of presentation because you're trying to keep in mind on your technique and your process. You're also trying to keep in mind on what else is going on.
Yeah, make sure that everyone has a good view. Make sure that
I've definitely gone out of process before in this environment, so
it's kind of like when
not
you're
doing that today.
It's kind of like when you're doing something that normally you'd be doing fine, and then your dad or your boss is looking over your
Watching
shoulder,
you,
and it's like all of a sudden I forgot how to do this.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let me get the rocker.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't read right now.
Come on, Stevie, no dead air.
I've got a question.
What's up?
Quality Tools asked, regarding underhood wash and detailing, with the new cars having so many panels underneath, should he remove the under panels first to avoid pooling on the under tray panels? Did you hear that, Sam?
Repeat the question.
Yeah.
On newer cars, should we be removing the under panels under the hood to avoid pooling under there?
No, I wouldn't be concerned of it personally. Are you talking about like the engine covers?
Yes.
I'm guessing, or
Yes.
like the skid plates like under the engine.
He just says, regarding underhood wash and detailing with the new cars having so many panels underneath. So I think he's referring to a variety.
Yeah, no, it's not a problem. You know, all those panels are designed to get wet, and usually, unless you have the hood up and you're intentionally cleaning the engine bay or rinsing under there, you're not going to get a ton of water that penetrates under the hood. I mean, you'll get some around the edges, you know, where you're rinsing the cowl and that's pushing water underneath, and then same, you know, at the seams of the hood. But you're usually not going to pop the hood after a wash and have like a completely soaked engine bay. It depends on the car, obviously, how new it is, how much, you know, how good the gaskets are and that sort of thing. But no need to remove engine covers or skid plates, regardless of which you're talking to. They normally clean up very easily as well. New engine bays are often very easy to detail because you can usually, you know, pop the hood, apply some foam, do a pressure rinse, and then, you know, spot treat areas that may be dirtier, but typically a foam application and a good thorough pressure rinse will get them real nice, unless you have leaks and, you know, oil buildup and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, it's a good question. Haven't heard that one before. Are any of the products susceptible to heat? I keep a cleaning kit in my trunk and it's starting to get hot. Yeah, I would say, I mean, a trunk, you know, on a 90-degree day is getting well over 120, 130. So ideally, you know, you're taking those out of the car during the really, really hot months. I'd say, you know, specifically the products that have protection in them are the ones that may be more problematic in high heat. Products like, you know, interior cleaner, glass cleaner, those aren't going to be as much of an issue. But yeah, you want to really avoid extremes on either end when it comes to storing products. You don't want them to freeze a lot. You don't want them to get crazy hot as well, especially if they're in a very hot environment for a prolonged period of time. Might affect the stability long term. Go ahead and rinse this before all the soap dries. So
Yeah.
go ahead and keep going, Stevie.
Yeah. Whale Noises said, I got a new car about a month ago, went overboard with pretty much every Griot product, including all the ceramic family. Should I use Brilliant Finish or Concentrated Wash as a maintenance wash? Really, any of our pH balanced washes that don't contain additional protection would be a great option, or you could use the ceramic wash and coat. I would say that my preference would probably be either foaming surface wash if you're using a foaming application, or Brilliant Finish car wash in the bucket. But really, any of the pH balance are going to be a great option. And then ceramic wash and coat is a good option to feed the base coat. You don't necessarily need to use that every time, and especially if you're working in a warm environment, you don't have the option to get out of, say, direct sunlight. That can be a little more finicky if you let it dry on the surface. So that's when a product like Brilliant Finish car wash or foaming surface wash would be a better option. Let's see. Whale Noises also asked if you could use ceramic wash and coat if you put on ceramic 3-in-1. Yes, ceramic wash and coat is a perfect way to feed and extend the base coat of the 3-in-1 that's already on the surface. And then also, is synthetic clay okay to use without polishing after? Yes, you want to be mindful of making sure that you're using enough lubrication and you're not putting too much pressure. Otherwise, you could potentially introduce some light marring onto the surface, but you don't need to polish after using the synthetic clay. So it would be perfectly fine just to decontaminate the surface and then either reapply a protectant, or before you're applying your base coat of 3-in-1. Or you could even use like ceramic speed shine, since you said you have the whole ceramic family, with the synthetic clay to boost the protection if you already do have that 3-in-1 on there. Hopefully that made sense. I was trying to talk over the cannon or the pressure washer, so I feel like I couldn't hear my own thoughts.
I think they can hear you.
I feel like I got it.
It's hard to hear yourself think when that thing's running. Quality Tools did say, yeah, he's talking about detailing the engine bay too. So yeah, in that scenario, you don't have to take them off, but it may be very dirty underneath them. So depending on how thorough you're going with your engine detail, I would probably maybe do my initial foam and rinse with them on so they get clean, and then pull them off, set them to the side, dry them, and then clean underneath them so you're getting, you know, a fully clean engine bay and don't have hidden dirty bits under there. Don't want that.
Dirty bit now. No. Is that Black Eyed Peas or something?
I don't know. You can always depend on Stevie to come in with a catchy tune. What's the ideal PSI for a foam cannon? Arthur Martinez asked that one. Our setup here, from what we found, is pretty optimal. It's 1900 PSI, 2 GPM, which is right in the sweet spot. So I'd say right around, you know, 18 to 22, 2300 PSI, and then ideally right in that 2 GPM, you know, 1.8 to 2.5 or so. In my opinion, is, you know, right in the sweet spot. Works well with almost any foam cannon. That higher GPM helps speed up rinsing. The PSI level is capable, but not, you know, not overkill. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah. I feel like we get a lot of questions each time we do a live about engine bay detailing. I almost feel like we should do an engine bay specific live.
Yeah, I think we did one once, didn't we, Matt?
Oh.
Yeah. So there is one out there on engine bay if you guys want to check it out. Doesn't mean we can't do it again, though. We've done the washing live several times. You guys definitely like these popular topics, so we try to keep them coming since there's an abundance of information.
Yeah,
Tough
if that's
to
something
cover
you're
in one.
interested in, let us know.
Yeah, I'd say all of you, please, you know, comment, tell us what kind of live content you want to see in terms of topics on a vehicle, whether it's more washing, more polishing, engine bay, interior. Interior is hard. Matt might not let us do interior.
Let's do
Tough to get cameras set up in an interior.
let's do a all jokes live.
We could just gut a car and have the interior all laid out in the wash bay. And I know Nick was talking about he's got some new seats and a new carpet kit for the Hundo, so that'd be good surfaces.
I don't know, you guys might have covered this. RM asked, does the wash mop head fit in the bucket?
I did cover that.
It does.
You did? Okay,
Yeah.
great.
I don't know. Well,
I did cover that while the pressure washer was running, so I completely understand why you didn't hear that.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, let's see a demonstration,
Demo.
it doesn't have the mop head on it, but it's the same size with the backing plate. So you can see that fits,
Sam. Oh, yeah.
fits in there both ways, and then same with the brush. You can get that in there
Yep.
both ways as well, so it won't knock you, you know, if you're don't have it turned a certain way or anything like that.
Yep.
Probably put these over here. Let's go ahead and dry this thing, Stevie.
I guess.
I'll leave Alex with a bunch of water spots. Drying is another area where people make a lot of mistakes in just using the wrong tool, wrong dry towel, or drying medium, whether it be a chamois or a squeegee. A good Terry loop dry towel is really the best way to go, in that it requires the least amount of pressure on a surface, saves you a ton of time and energy, picks up the water really, really easily, has some forgiveness to it, and that it has nap, you know, in case there is a piece of, you know, say a gust of wind came and blew a couple pine needles on the car right before you dry it, you don't see them or something like that. Chamois and squeegees, you know, have a high risk of causing scratches if anything gets underneath them while they're being moved over the paint surface, whereas a good microfiber loop dry towel like the PFM XL that we're using right now makes it just effortless. I used to hate drying cars. I'd use a combination of a squeegee and our old waffle weave towel, and it just took a long time. It was kind of a tedious process. And the PFM drying towel is really solve that problem. Make it very quick and actually a joy to do.
Yeah. Drying aids are really popular though, and I do want to drive home. Using a drying aid and then not laundering your towel after is the quickest way to kill the absorbency of your towel. So just make sure if you are using a drying aid to up protection while you're drying the vehicle, do make sure that you wash your towel after, before it dries, to ensure that, especially ceramic protectant, to ensure that doesn't dry and essentially cure in your microfiber.
Yeah. Don't worry about drying the sides since we didn't wash over there. We'll wash that afterwards.
You don't want me to scratch his entire passenger side?
I don't think Alex would like that. It's a pretty nice car. We got to keep him on our good side since he writes all our product copy for us. But yeah, drying, air is another great way to help speed up the drying process. Whether it's one of our Airstream drying guns or a dedicated blower. You can use a leaf blower at home as well. It's a great way to do it. A lot of you guys are using the new battery powered leaf blowers. I know there's some shorty tips out there for those that make them a little safer for use around a vehicle. I would say ideally if you're using a blower, specifically if it's normally a leaf blower, best case it's got a foam filter on the intake, just in case you're in a dusty environment. You don't want to be sucking dust and then blowing it at the vehicle. So that's just something to keep in mind. A lot of those new electric blowers do have foam filters from what I've seen, but not all of them. So something to keep in mind. But somebody earlier mentioned a blower for wheels. Drying wheels, by hand is a pain because they're small and intricate. So a blower is a great way because you also have a lot of areas that water hides in a wheel, the lug recesses, the barrel, the brake system. So a blower helps get all that out. Sometimes too, I'll take the car for a quick spin around the block, especially if I don't have a blower handy. Use air and movement to get a lot of that hidden water out and off the car, and then pull it back in your driveway or garage and dry it off with your dry towel. Another great way to go. But do not use cotton towels, you guys. That's definitely the biggest no-no. They will scratch your paint. They're not near as absorbent as microfiber. Even a really high dollar cotton bath towel is not going to be nearly as good or as safe as a good comparable microfiber dry towel. So yeah, the PFMs are second to none. Pure freaking magic. All those looped fibers give you tons of absorbency. We may or may not have some cool new stuff coming in the microfiber realm as well.
Yeah.
All right, well, anything else?
Speaking of cool new stuff, we also have a very exciting group of products that are going to be announced and shown off our next live on June 18th, Sam's birthday. So definitely make sure that you check out our live. If you want to guess in the comments right now what you think that this group of products may be, if you guess right, if you're the first one to guess right, we will note that down and we will announce in our next live where we announce what it actually is, who the winner is, and you will win all of that group or family of products.
Yeah.
So that's a fun one. Go ahead and fire off in the comments what you think that group may be.
Yeah, this giveaway is exclusive to you guys. So you get not only we're not going to give you too much info on what it is, but it's a number of products, say 5+.
Yeah.
Won't tell you the exact number, but it is a number of products.
Yep.
New category for us.
Don't give it away.
And you'll get the full set if you guess correctly. So comment here.
First one
in
to
this
guess
live. Sorry,
correctly.
yes, thank you. The first person to guess correctly. Not all of you that guess correctly. But yes, the first person that guessed correctly in this live's comment section of what type of product line that will be. You also have to be present in the live on June 18th to hear
we will announce.
when we announce the winner. So we will not announce that winner until June 18th. That line will have launched by then, but we will announce the winner from this comment section during the next live on June 18th. You'll get the full setup. We'll probably give another set away during that live too. So if you don't guess right in the comments today, you'll have another chance to win that full product suite during the live on June 18th as well.
Product suite? That sounded real bougie.
Suite of sweet products.
Le suite des products.
But yeah, it's a great chance to win that exciting upcoming product line. I know I've been working pretty hard on that one for the last, close to a year now.
Yeah.
Not quite, but close. So make sure you guys get down there and subscribe. If you are not already, hit the like, give us the thumbs up. That helps us out a ton. The more engagement, the better across all of those mediums. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss that live on the 18th, especially if you're guessing down there what kind of products we're launching. You don't want to miss that live, so get the reminder by hitting the notification bell down below.
Yep.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to our email list on our website. That will ensure you know what's coming as soon as it comes out. So you'll be the first ones to know, get some early ins on some of the sales and so on.
Yep. And use code SM Garage if you didn't already.
Yeah, SM Garage. SM Garage for 25% off creepers and 15% off select garage accessories. That is also valid in our Tacoma retail store. So we had somebody ask earlier if that's only valid online. The retail store will honor that sale if you're here in person as well. So just tell them that if they give you hard times, tell them Sam said it during the live, and you got to do it.
Yep. We are getting some guesses already. I will tell you, no one has guessed it yet. It is not graphene.
Definitely not graphene.
Keep firing your guesses, and we will keep an eye and watch for someone to guess it right.
Borophene.
Sounds aggressive.
I haven't heard of that one
Yeah.
yet. These are good. All right, I love it. Thank you guys, as always. Great engagement, great comments of questions to answer. So thank you guys again. Best customers in the world. We appreciate you so much from everybody here at Griot's Garage, not just Stevie and I.
Yeah. Nick in spirit.
Yeah, he's doing some CEO stuff today, so
I guess he's like important now or something.
We get to have fun with you guys. But I think that's it. So make sure you subscribe, follow us everywhere, watch all our videos, and have fun in your garage.
Have fun in your garage.
To butter in the middle, it's a clever trick. Soap on the left, drinks on the right. Dirt falls down, my ride so slick. I'm washing in style, feeling out of sight. Oh, my neighbors wave, they want to know how my car's so bright, how it seems to glow. I wink and smile, then I let them see. It's the bucket, baby, it's the secret key. Double dunk, dip it in, make that funky funk. Double dunk, soap and rinse, hear that groove go, double dunk, shining wheels and a trunk full of funk. Double dunk, with my ultimate wash bucket, I'm never sunk. Measuring cups, I pour with flair, volume lines, I haven't a care. Lower grades catch all the grit, no more scratches, just a perfect fit. Tool caddy loaded, brushes in tow, wheels are spinning, watch me go. Casters rolling, brakes on tight, my car's a disco ball tonight. Oh, the music's loud, the water sprays.